Hi, this is John with The Evolving World. Today I'm doing a video on upgrading the door cards on a Suzuki Cappuccino. So this is what it looks like stock. And I never like the look of this. I think it looks absolutely hideous. There's elements that I like and there's elements I don't like. I like this piece here. And I like this stuff right here. But what I don't like is I've never been a big fan of this padded, you know, kind of bunched up, almost kind of like leather sofa looking from the 1980s. You know, it almost looks like something from 82 or something instead of 92. And it also has, and with this kind of a pattern right here, it almost looks like something like a 70s Econo car. So basically like some 70s or 80s, a car that would have been 10 years prior to this one. That's what it looks like to me. And just the lack of contrast, you know, black on black here is just too much. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be removing this section of it, this vinyl padded crap. We're going to tear this out, and we're going to be putting in some new fabric that matches our seats actually. It's a nice houndstooth kind of pattern, kind of a more classic, kind of timeless kind of shape to it that I think was going to add a lot of personality and character to it and clean up all this ugly part of the car here. It's really the only part of the car I really just don't like. I mean, that right there. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started. The first thing you want to do is you want to use a screwdriver to pull off your caps right here. This is actually flexible material, so you don't have to worry about scratching. You're not going to scratch anything. This is all kind of a rubbery material. So you can just reach in there, pry those off. Now on this particular car, this happens. I've seen this before. So this piece is already, on this one it was already loose. There's one place where it snaps in place there. And there's supposed to be, you can see there's little holes right there for screws. So it's supposed to be screwed together with this right here, along this route right here. And so a lot of these cars, these older cars, they have this same condition. I've seen it before. I have two of these cars. Another one had the exact same problem. So I guess people tear it apart or something. So you might come across that this upper piece might be already loose. And so then in that case, it would be just coming right out. But either way, if it doesn't come out, then what you're going to want to do is start down here. And we'll go ahead and take the screws out next. So with those 3 screws out, that pretty much loosens everything up pretty easily here. Use a tool like this if you can get one to go in here and kind of just gently pull these apart. And just kind of work your way around. Like so. Basically, this is how it will come apart. It's really pretty simple. And here's the panel out of the car, so that's what it looks like. So fortunately, we were able to get these out without breaking any of these little pegs here. But don't worry if you do. Just make sure you don't break the door when you take this apart. I mean, you don't want to, you know, we want to preserve this part. This is the part we want to keep. We don't care about these. If they do snap, you can always replace those, but you don't want to break this. So that's how it looks right there. Now that we're on our workbench, the next step would be to go ahead and take out these screws. If this upper section was already attached, there would be screws right here. You want to detach that. So in this case, it's already done. Just set that aside. And then you can kind of see how this is constructed here. So it's pretty simple. There's like some plastic snaps right here that hold this thing in place. And then basically, you can kind of just work your way around here. Pull this apart. There's a little bit of adhesive. Don't worry about salvaging any of the vinyl, since this is all going to come out anyway. Keep doing this like this. There you go. Now you got that piece out. Set that aside. Just turn this around. Back to our orientation. So yeah, what we're going to want to do is we want to keep the particle board, the MDF. This wood particle board is back here. That's what we want to keep. So basically, the next step is this stuff right here. You don't need this for anything. You can just discard this thing, get rid of that. Next, taking a pry bar or a chisel or a screwdriver, whatever you got lying around, you can basically just kind of work around here. There's a series of staples on here. And so basically, these things should just pop right off. They don't, it's not really constructed all that heavily. It comes right off pretty easily. You can see, you can just kind of wedge it. Pull these out like so. Just work your way all the way around. once all those staples are lifted up, they're very shallow, so they come right out pretty easily. So it's not going to be much resistance. Once all those are out of the way, turn it back over. Just find yourself an opening here. You know, this stuff is a padded. It's a foam-backed vinyl, so it's basically glued onto the particle board here. So you just have to find a spot and just kind of start prying away, reach in here and just kind of pull it off, like so. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some duct tape. We want to keep our pegs in place. Now, this would be the time that if any of these pegs were broken, you don't want to replace them. But in this case, they're all functional and they're all here, so that's good. So with the duct tape in, the next step is to take off any kind of high spots here, any kind of there's no reason to go too crazy on it, but just anything that's rough, any pieces of foam that's still on here, any high spots, anything that's just that might read as like a bump. We don't want to have any bumps. We want to have this be as smooth as possible. So we've got some foam right here. Anything that's sticking up, we want to get rid of it. Another thing you want to do is you want to make sure you sand this back here, this back edge right here. This is where we're going to be gluing, so we want to make sure we have a good, clean mating surface. Next step is you want to lay your fabric down, kind of line it up with the edge. The bottom edge is the only real straight edge here, so if you can line up your fabric, this particular fabric has a pattern on it, so as long as that line matches up there, you can line it up nice and straight. Makes it a little bit easier. So this one, we're looking at this white line right there, so that's what this goes all the way across right here. So line it up right there. Make sure you have enough material to at least leave about maybe 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch or so of extra fabric around the edges. Make sure you have plenty of fabric. This is about 36 inches wide or so, or 35, I guess. So about a meter, or about a yard is how at the longest. So if you wanted to do this, that's how much fabric you're going to need, about a yard across here, and then I think it's about 16, 17 inches or so. It's about what in this direction. So the next step, you can start using some clamps to kind of clamp down. Make sure your line is nice and straight here. Wrap your material around. It's always good to have a little extra. We can always go back and cut it a little bit more a little bit later. And once we got the baseline, that line's right there, nice and straight on the bottom. So with that clamped in place, just don't worry about it doesn't have to be too tight or anything. We're going to be we're going to be tightening it up a little later, but for now, we just want to make sure we got it lined up properly. So now you can go ahead and start cutting the material. Leave about 3/4 of an inch or so. You can just kind of eyeball it. You don't have to be too strict about it. Also, what I like to do is as I'm cutting, I like to clamp it in a couple places as I go past it, just to give a little extra security, because last thing we want this thing is to shift on us. We don't want to shift anything. Always make sure that it's nice and flat still as you go ahead and cut. Okay, with the perimeter now complete, now you want to go ahead and cut out the opening here for the door handle. So I find that like an X-Acto knife or just anything that can, just punch a hole through here, just find your hole opening, just feel it out, and then basically go about an inch in or so, and go ahead and just make a little slit right here, and then just go ahead and cut your, always make sure you know where that edge is at. Just take it easy. With the rough cut made in the center, now you can go around the perimeter and kind of just pull back the fabric, make sure it's as smooth as you can get it. It doesn't have to be super tight, but just kind of fine tune it a little bit, kind of make sure it's all clamped in position. So that's what I've already done here. Just kind of loosely put it. Don't worry about getting it too tight, but just make sure that we have enough fabric to wrap it around. And then what we'll do next is we'll go ahead and fine tune this a little bit. We cut this quite a bit big, so we're going to want to fine tune this a little bit. We'll start snipping the corners, the edges, put some slits in it, and then we'll start clamping this back. And so now we can kind of just fine tune a little bit more. So you just take your blade and cut off any of these any kind of rough spots here that are not quite clampable yet, because what we're going to do is we're going to be gluing it off on the back here. So we want to start to tighten it up a little bit. So you probably want to start at the bottom, since that's our straight edge. That would be a simple, easy one to do. We've got a little excess material here, so we're going to cut this back a little bit. We just want to have about a good, maybe, probably about a ½ inch or so to 3/4 is all we need. Anything excess, we don't really need it. It's just going to get in the way. As you can see here, this would really clog things up. So we want to cut it back a little bit more. One of the trickier parts is to go around the corners here. So what you do is you cut out these slits and everything, separate these pieces. Alright, so when you're done, you should have something that looks basically like this. You basically have now clamped it all down. You've tightened it up a little bit, picked up all the slack, rounded off all the edges, made sure everything was nice and, well, it doesn't have to be too tight, just fairly snug. So the next step is, what we're going to do is start gluing it. So I've found that this glue works really well for this. This type of, it's really strong, it sticks to fabric, it sticks to wood products, which is what we have here. So it's pretty simple. You basically just, you're going to take a couple clamps off, like so, and then you're going to put your glue down on both sides, let it get a little tacky, and then you're going to basically press it down with one hand. You're going to pull it pretty tight, and then with your other hand, you're going to use the clamp and clamp it back down. So I can't do that because I have my hand on the camera here, but and then you do the same thing. You do a couple at a time, and basically just work your way around the perimeter. And that's basically all there is to it. So here it is, all glued up. One thing I highly recommend is that you make sure that you have enough clamps. These clothesline pins, you want to make sure you got enough of them, because you can never have enough. I had to raid the kitchen here as I was gluing along here to add a couple extra clamps, because I really wanted to make sure that some of these areas were tight enough and everything. So I was able to do that. So probably could still use one or two. There's a couple areas here where it could probably be taped down a little bit more, tacked down, but this should do fine. I also put the emphasis on the areas that there's no additional coverage, like down here on this side. See, up here, that other piece, that trim piece up above covers that, so it's not really a high wear place, so it's not as important to pin or clamp that side. Alright, so now we're ready to put it back together. Basically, we're going to put this panel in first. Don't worry about reattaching anything else. We're going to put those pieces in separately. So let's go ahead and put this in. So what you want to do is you want to press it in on the bottom first, and then what you can do is insert your plastic piece in. Basically just pushing, you open the door handle, and then just kind of work it in there, and it kind of goes right in there. And you don't have to. We're not going to be gluing it or anything, so don't worry about that. So all we're going to need to do is just screw our handles in, and that will hold it down nice and tight. So you see it goes in there pretty snug and everything. You don't want to risk putting any glue on it, because then you might have a glue seam or something show through. So then just make sure that these are all in. Do you think we are? Missed that one. So yeah, just snap them in. Make sure that they're all in place. I would start at the bottom. It doesn't matter if you put them all in first. It doesn't make any difference before doing this. And so that's what it's looking like. And all we really got to do is put our handle on, and then put this piece in as well. So since this piece was originally attached, but it hasn't been attached for a while, I don't find that it's really a problem, because all you really have to do is basically you just line it up right here. You're going to snap that one in, and then this actually just rests on here like a shelf. And so, like, I mean, that's really, that's the way it was. It's actually been like that for a while. It doesn't really, unless you actually go out of your way to lift up on that, nobody really does that. So it actually rests in there just fine. I mean, if you want, you could probably put a little tie wrap or something, or cable tie or something down on that side. But yeah, basically this side just lines up and snaps in right there. And then that's pretty much it. Let's just put our door handle on, and we'll be done. Alright, so that is 100% complete. How do you like that? I think that looks absolutely gorgeous. I love it. Has that kind of 60s kind of look. We have a very traditional kind of classic timeless design. I like how we kept our elements here, our black elements, the parts that would be impossible to change. We left those alone, which are perfectly fine actually anyway. And then just by simply getting rid of that nasty, stupid vinyl junk that was in there before, and putting some nicer fabric in that contrasts nicely, it just reads so much better. And this matches our seats too. Now they're not in the car yet, so I can't pan and show that, but I will later on. And we also have some white accents that we've added here on inside as well. So basically a white and black kind of theme is what the theme is. And so maybe some mats or something as well. Maybe later on we can put some mats in or something, but in the same kind of pattern maybe. But anyway, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope it inspired you. Please like and subscribe if you did enjoy it. And many more videos to come.